Imagine waking up tomorrow and the entire world is being redrawn. New empires, new oceans, new rules. The old order is crumbling. Fortunes are being made and lost in a single day. And somewhere on the open sea, a man with a skull and crossbones flag is steering straight toward all of it. Welcome to the 17th century, a time so wild, so ruthless, and so extraordinary that historians still call it the Golden Age. Stick around because what you're about to learn will completely change how you see the world we live in today. Let's set the stage. It's the 1600s. Europe is a powder keg. Spain and Portugal have already carved up the known world between themselves, and they're not sharing. England, France, and the Dutch Republic are furious, hungry, and building fleets as fast as they possibly can. Trade routes across the Atlantic and Indian Oceans are worth more than entire kingdoms. Spices, silk, sugar, and silver are flowing, and controlling those routes means controlling the world. But here's the thing nobody tells you in school. The line between a pirate and a naval captain in the 17th century was almost invisible, and that's where the story gets really good. Pirates, the original outlaws. Fun fact number 1, most pirates didn't actually make their crews walk the plank. That's almost entirely a myth, popularized by novels written centuries after the fact. Real pirates use far more practical punishments, like marooning someone on a tiny island with nothing but a pistol and one bullet, which is honestly worse. Now let's talk about the real stars of the 17th century seas. Henry Morgan, and here's where it gets fascinating, was technically not a pirate at all. He was a privateer, which means the English crown paid him to attack Spanish ships. He once sacked the entire city of Panama, stealing one of the largest hauls in Caribbean history. His reward? He was eventually knighted by King Charles II. Let that sink in. The man burned cities for profit and got a knighthood. Fun fact number 2, the word buccaneer doesn't come from the word for piracy. It comes from a French word, boucan, meaning a wooden frame used to smoke meat. Early pirates in the Caribbean were literally barbecue guys before they became raiders. They'd smoke wild pigs on Hispaniola, get pushed out by colonial forces, and turn to piracy to survive. From smokehouses to warships. That's a career pivot. And then there's Bartholomew Black Bart Roberts, arguably the most successful pirate in history. Active in the early 1700s but very much a product of the Golden Age culture, he captured over 400 ships in just a few years. He also had a strict code of conduct on his ship. No gambling, lights out by 8 p.m., and musicians got Sundays off. The most feared pirate on the Atlantic had better HR policies than some modern companies. Fun fact number 3, pirates actually pioneered one of the world's earliest democratic systems at sea. Crews voted on their captain, voted on whether to attack a target, and shared plunder according to written contracts. If a pirate lost an eye or a limb in battle, they received disability compensation, written into the ship's articles. In an era of absolute monarchy, pirates were running floating democracies. Pyres on water. Of course, where there are pirates, there are navies. And in the 17th century, navies were the ultimate symbol of national power. The Dutch East India Company, known as the VOC, was not just a trading company. It had its own army, its own navy, and the legal right to wage war, sign treaties, and govern territories. It was, in effect, a corporation with the powers of a nation-state. At its peak, the VOC was worth, in today's money, somewhere around $8 trillion. That makes it the most valuable company in human history, by a massive margin. Fun fact number 4, the English Royal Navy in the 17th century had a serious problem. Not enemy ships, but rats. Ships were so infested that the Navy began keeping cats on board as official crew members. Some ships registered cats in their logs and even gave them names. One famous ship's cat, Trim, became a celebrity. The Navy funded rat-catching cats well into the 20th century. The Anglo-Dutch Wars of the 17th century were essentially the world's first global trade wars, fought not over land, but over who gets to sell pepper and nutmeg. The Dutch and English fleets clashed repeatedly in the North Sea, the Atlantic, and beyond. These wars literally redrew the map of colonial power and set the foundations for the British Empire. Fun fact number 5, the city of New York was originally called New Amsterdam because it was a Dutch settlement. The English captured it in 1664 during the Second Anglo-Dutch War, and renamed it after the Duke of York. In exchange for keeping it, England gave the Dutch the island of Run in Indonesia, a tiny spice island they desperately wanted. So in a very real sense, Manhattan was traded for a nutmeg island. New Yorkers, how does that make you feel? Why the Golden Age matters. The 17th century wasn't just about swashbuckling pirates and dramatic sea battles. It was a turning point that helped shape the modern world in ways that still influence us today. Across Europe and beyond, new ideas were challenging centuries of tradition, changing how people understood science, politics, trade, and society. The scientific revolution was in full swing. Thinkers like Isaac Newton, Galileo Galilei, and René Descartes were transforming humanity's understanding of the universe. Their discoveries challenged long-held beliefs and laid the foundations for modern science. At the same time, the printing press continued to spread knowledge across borders, allowing books, newspapers, and revolutionary ideas to reach more people than ever before. For the first time, information could travel faster than rulers could control it. Meanwhile, powerful colonial empires were expanding across the globe, competing for territory, resources, and influence. But this growth came at a terrible human cost. It is impossible to discuss this era without acknowledging the transatlantic slave trade, which reached horrific levels during this period. The same ships that transported gold, silver, sugar, and spices also carried millions of enslaved Africans. Much of the wealth that fueled imperial expansion was built upon this exploitation, making that reality an inseparable part of the century's history. Fun fact number 6. The Great Fire of London in 1666 burned for 4 days and destroyed over 13,000 houses, but it killed fewer than 10 people officially. Why? Because the fire spread so slowly that most people had time to grab their belongings and run. Many Londoners spent days watching it from a safe distance, as if it were a spectator event. One man even roasted meat over the embers. The 17th century had a very different relationship with disaster. This century gave us stock markets, international law, modern navigation, and the seeds of democratic revolution. The chaos of pirates and navies wasn't random. It was the violent, messy process of the world being invented. The 17th century Golden Age was messy, brutal, brilliant, and absolutely fascinating. Pirates with democracy codes, corporations with armies, cities traded for spice islands, a fire that Londoners watched like a fireworks show. This is history at its most human, and we've only just scratched the surface. If you want to keep diving deep into the stories that actually shape the world, the real ones, the weird ones, the ones nobody taught you in school, then hit that subscribe button right now. Every week we drop new episodes on history, science, and the hidden stories behind the world we live in. Ring the notification bell so you never miss one, because trust me, what's coming next is going to blow your mind even more than today. Leave a comment below. Which fact surprised you the most? I'm reading every single one. Now go tell someone about the Nutmeg Island. They need to know.